Welcome back to the Lub Dub Podcast. I am McFly, joined as always by my lovely, beautiful, and incredibly intelligent wife,
Erica.
And guys, as you know, if you've been with us, we bring you content on relationships to parenting and everything in between. Now, today feels like a bit of deja vu. Number one, because we recorded this like 3 times. We're not good at like pushing the record button for some odd reason. So technical difficulties to the max today. But we didn't want to bring you a video, especially since we were on a little bit of a hiatus on pins and needles, counting some of the votes from the U.S. election. Yeah. We're not going to go into that at all. I don't really care, but you know, we're quietly kind of happy, but whatever, we'll see. Either way, the point is, we were taking a hiatus as many were, watching that kind of unfold. But it also feels like deja vu because yet again, we have a scenario in which a pastor can't keep it in his pants. Like, I don't understand. You know what? You would think it'd be easy. It's obviously pandemic. A lot of social unrest. Yes, good word, unrest. And we're just, I don't know how they have time. How do you have time to cheat on your wife? I don't understand.
So he is talking about Carl Lentz. So he was a pastor.
Fired him. God fired him.
He was a pastor at Hillsong Church, which is a
global mega church vibe,
but more young, hip. Love how I say hip because it's weird.
The young hipster crowd. He got notoriety because he was Bieber's like personal mentor.
Yeah,
he lived with him for a little bit. Selena Gomez is apparently a fan of the church. The Jenners, the Kardashians, all of them.
That's where he met his Justin Bieber met his wife, Haley Baldwin.
Yep.
So it's got a large amount of notoriety, and he's gotten a large amount of notoriety. Mm-hmm. And he cheated on his wife of 17 years. Now, please note, he's a young guy. He's like 36.
And got married at like 19 or 20. So, lot to unpack there, but I digress.
Yeah. So, and they have 3 kids. And they're all older because they got married young. So,
that kid's young.
Yeah. But they are all seeing this unfold.
I thought it was interesting. So, with the affair, there's some question as to whether or not he just got caught and then decided to just come clean, because apparently the affair's been going on for months.
Now, he met her during quarantine time in New York, mind you.
Where it was ground zero for a lot of it.
Thank you. Well, I mean, I don't want to say ground zero, but
that's fair.
I mean, it was a hot spot.
The hottest spot at one point.
Right, it was the hottest spot. And it was May, right? May-ish?
Yeah,
that they met.
Mm-hmm.
That they met in the park. And then he saved her a spot, and then he's like, I know God introduced you into my life for a reason.
No, he said that God says you're
special.
They always got the lines from God.
God's telling me you're special. Yeah, she was special, and you should have probably stayed away from her and protected your family and your empire. But yes, they had an affair, ongoing affair. It wasn't like just a one-time thing.
Which is important to note here, because I think in his release, because they always have to give an apology, shout out the wife, say we're going to work on ourselves. Every pastor does it. If you've seen our John Gray video, we'll link above. Same thing. He got caught. He has to work on himself. We're going to let God lead us through this troubling time. And, we were tempted by the devil. And, that's the old adage from pastors, whatever. What's interesting to note here, though, is similar to John Gray, but maybe even more so, even worse potentially. I don't want to compare sins of people, but he made it seem like it was like a one-time straight thing, like I made a mistake. And the woman says otherwise.
Yeah, she was like,
5 months, we were in love.
Sure. We I knew you were married after they like met and started talking.
Right.
She did a background check on him and found out he was this pastor and blah, blah, blah. That's what happened. And so she knew he was married, but she was like, oh, it feels so right. I mean, I know it's wrong, but it feels so good.
And he obviously no wrong with that, so.
And he also said, I feel like I'm betraying my wife. Yeah, there was like a thing where he was like, yeah, I know that what I'm doing is so wrong. It's like, but it feels so good.
You shouldn't cheat on your wife because you love them and you care about them. You want them to be happy, right? That's all right. That's all fair. But in terms of your livelihood as well, Tom Brady, right? He cheats on his wife. He's not getting fired. He's not losing his job. He'll be like made fun of and whatnot. Like Tiger, he had a knock on his career afterwards because he attacked him or whatever. But he went on to win tournaments. He got all of his endorsements back. You know what I mean? So to me, it's almost like, yes, there's the added pressure and the pain that you cause your family, your very grown-ish kids or close to grown-ish kids that are teenagers, right? Just the embarrassment of that. The embarrassment on your church, the black eye you give the church, right? All of those things are bad enough. But then you also lose your livelihood, your job. Man sold his house.
Yeah.
You would think you would
1.5 mil.
You would think you would understand, of all people, being a pastor is the quintessential, lead by example job, right? All you have is your example, right? That's all you have. That's your entire career. Why put that at jeopardy to get some nookie on the side? I don't get it.
So what seemed to happen is that if you're gonna cheat, don't use an iPhone. Don't use an iPhone. We are an Android family.
Not that we're cheaters. It's just you have no privacy with an iPhone. It's in the cloud, as they say.
Everything's in the cloud. His phone was connected to his cloud at work.
His work computer.
Yeah. And so his wife went on there just to do something, and just then to do a Google search, all of his text messages with this girl, and that's when it started. So I'm assuming she told the church peoples and was like, he's cheating and all this other stuff.
Do you think she wouldn't have told the church before she told him? Do you think that's what she would do?
No, I think they had a conversation and then she told them.
Oh, so she said, I found this and I'm going to tell the church what's going on.
Yeah.
So he was fired. He did sell his house. And I guess what's scary to me, and it feels like, men of God, and again, they're under stress, they're under pressure, because again, your life is what's on trial in most cases, right? Any little thing you do, you can't engage in the secular nature of the world, right? You can't go out drinking if you're a pastor, right? You can't be in a strip club if you're a pastor. You can't, talk, the locker room talk that people say guys engage in. You can't really do that. Oh man, she got a fatty, dude, I slayed out dick. You can't talk like that. So I think it is hard to uphold yourself in that fashion. It feels like he was young when he got married, and maybe one or two things. Either, if you got married at 19, I'm just going to assume you weren't the coolest kid on the block. Maybe you weren't really getting it in. Maybe you were kind of I'm not saying you have to be getting it in. I'm just saying maybe you felt like, hey, and as we talked about this in our last video, how sometimes the pressure to not have sex outside of marriage pushes you into marriage faster because you want to get it in. So maybe he was at 19 thinking, man, I can't wait no longer. And then you do it, but then one partner or, very limited partners for so long, you get to 30. Man, you guys have seen, the pastor. He got a 6-pack. You're hanging with beebs, you feeling kind of like you got a little swag going. Maybe he was like, I never really had
swag.
Yeah, hipster swag, 100%. But he said, maybe I didn't have anything like I wanted before. Maybe I want to try something that I didn't get a chance to do when I was 19, 20 and married. But, it's what it is.
I think, now, I don't want to be the anti-guy person.
You're about to do it.
But I think
you're about to do it.
That men, more so than women, need to sow their royal oats, whatever it is, whatever the saying is, when they're young. Because I've seen in recent weeks, even like the video we did about Kadeen and DeVal, that guys who got in relationships younger.
It's not fair to lump him in there.
No, I'm not saying
he
that
didn't cheat.
No, fine. I'm saying that he made the whole commentary around, I think, one, not being ready for marriage when he did. Okay. Two, not being ready to be in a serious relationship, but he still loved his girl, but he just wanted to be, do his thing, do the do. You can know somebody is going to be important to you, but still want to, in essence, have some experiences.
I agree that I think both sides of the coin.
You can say there's good people on both sides.
Men and don't quote me like I'm that dude. Failure in chief. Don't do that. I think both sides, you need to grow before you get married, because marriage is difficult. I mean, it's not difficult for us, right?
Stop it.
Stop it. Is it hard?
I'm saying it.
No. Answer my question. Is it hard for us?
Yes.
No, it's not.
It's hard.
No.
You gotta adjust to all their changes.
The point I'm making is it can be difficult. I mean, we joke. I mean, it can be difficult, right? It's a change, and as you mentioned, people change over time, right? All of those things. But I think both sides have to be ready for that, and it's not just men sow the royal oats. It's not just that. It's more so getting to a point mentally and somewhat physically that you're prepared. It's not just men, it's women as well. That's what I would agree to you on that. Although I would say it's not just a physical thing.
I think that men take longer to get ready.
First off, men have not taken longer to get ready in the history of the world.
Oh, stop it.
It's not fair to just say that men have the power or that men need more. I think need time. Y'all need time to get into relationships, to do some messing around. There's two things at play here.
Before y'all decide that you're going to lock it down.
There's two things at play here. Like I said, if you're 19 and you got married, you probably weren't let's just assume, this may be a bad thing to say, you probably were kind of nerdy, if you're, because think about when you were in high school, like that's in early college years. The overly into church people, and this is why I think, the pastor was appealing. It's not looked at as being cool. It's just not. There's not a cool factor to going to church. Not a cool factor to being, heavily involved with religion. It's just not a cool factor. Now, before you say, well, people don't do things just because it's cool, look around. Yeah, they do. Like that church, Hillsong in particular, definitely grows when you have Kardashians, Jenners, and Bieber walking through the door or hanging out with your pastors. It 100% helps grow the brand and helps grow the reach of the church. It just is what it is. We both grew up in churches. Churches that have the most kids are the most vibrant churches. Mm-hmm. Churches that have the kids.
Because kids aren't really leading the church right now. And it's still older people.
And when they're heavy in the church, you can tell, because children mean families. Families mean just by sheer number, more people are invested. Mm. So you have more activities. You have youth, basketball teams, and you have activities. You have more things to do because you reach the youth. So it makes sense to give it a cool factor. But he probably, at that 19-year-old age, wasn't probably the coolest kid. I think that's a part of him that's like, I get to live out maybe some of those fantasies I couldn't actualize before.
I think because he didn't sow his royal oats. I keep messing it up
because it's wrong.
He just didn't know how to deal with seeing a girl that's attractive and then just, let's say you have a good conversation with her, just leaving. I think there's skill that's built up when you know how to deal with temptation.
I think if you have the skill, you're more likely to act on it. I don't think it's necessarily that. I think it's, again, he wasn't popular. or he wasn't as known, or he didn't have the confidence that he has now.
But the thing I'm saying to you is this. Are you trying to tell me because if you've gone at girls before, you've had that relationship, the temptation for you is less because you already know what it's about?
I would say...
And he doesn't.
I mean, to an extent, maybe. As a young man who was mildly successful with women at a young age, I would say I don't feel as much temptation. However,
I rest my case. That's all we need to say.
That's not all men. Some men are fine. I know plenty of guys that were got married at 23 or 22 or 21, and that's what they wanted. And they were happy to do so. And these are not guys who were out just hoeing it up.
Are they still happy now?
They're still happy now. They wanted what they wanted. I don't think it's necessarily you have to do it a certain way. I just think in the context of him being a pastor, I think that's where this is different for me. Talking about men in general, okay, fine. But the pastor, his excuses have to be better than I need to sow my royal oats. His excuses have to be, it needs to be better than that. Because that's sad and it's weak. And you lead people. As I mentioned, it's the quintessential lead by example role in life.
What sucks is that he prides himself on, he just recently wrote a book in the last few years about being spiritual in a secular world, and he had all these hip titles for his chapters, oh, that girl's poisoned and but
it's hard. It's hard
to hang your hat on that, and then
that's why he can't. That's why he was fired, because you can't hang your hat on that.
Kind of hard.
If your whole thing is I live according to God's word, right, and I live to serve Him and to be of service to others. But I can live in the
secular world and bridge the gap in between. And he was bridging other gaps in between.
Wow. That's really... he was bridging the gaps in between.
Yeah, he was.
But there's a part of it that isn't exciting, right? I'm not saying your pastor can't wear Supreme and 2K, but I'm just saying it's
I think
hard.
He was too young.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be an ageist, but I think he was too young.
With age comes experience and wisdom. That's just a fact.
But you've said this to me before in different times, that the people that you felt most connected to as far as delivering a message had life experience before they went down this path.
That's true too. And I think, again, going back to people wanting younger people in the church, you go to younger pastors.
Younger is fine, but
experience.
Not
gone through something. Something you have to have, how much church.
Because I think he's been in the church since he was young.
I think you need a strong testimony. It's something that, helped you solidify your faith. And usually it's some great issue, some great problem, or just even it can be just great success. I've been blessed and I have in my mind the proof that I've been blessed because of these things. I feel like when you're younger, it's hard to have that, especially if you're younger and you come from privilege and you haven't gone through much, or you don't have much life experience. It's hard to know what that testimony is or have a strong one. But ultimately, regardless of all of that, I just think keep it in your pants.
Dude, how you do it in quarantine though?
It's not safe. And you were in New York area? Come on, dude.
Yeah.
What are we doing here?
Every cough got me looking sideways.
I feel like the times now, we're realizing quarantine is exposing people. It's exposing your failings.
In your armor.
It's exposing weaknesses in your marriage and your relationships, whether they be, romantic or platonic. It's exposing a lot. Guys, keep in mind and be careful who you deal with.
Yeah, I think we have to take what people say, and I guess church leaders, not necessarily with a grain of salt, but be wary. And not to say that we're giving advice, because we just want to start a dialogue here. Everyone has their own battles, And you never know what's going on behind closed doors. And honestly, I don't trust anybody. I take bits and pieces of lessons and you piece them together to the best of your ability. And hopefully that guides you and you're successful in that.
That's fair. I feel like, pastors are oftentimes given, it's hard, right? It's hard to be a pastor. It's hard to lead people, right? But I also think, as I mentioned, quarantine's exposed people. And I feel like this pressurized situation shows your true colors. And not to say that one mistake means that you shouldn't be trusted or shouldn't be looked at as a man of God. But I just feel like not everyone should be a man of God. Not everyone has the ability. Not everyone has the commitment. And not everyone gets into it for the right reasons. I feel like there's too many, in my experiences, pastors who fall short of the mark. And not to say that, hey, it's a problem for you falling short, but again, how are you falling short? Because if you're completely crapping on one of the sacred institutions of your religion, are you really meant for that religion in terms of being a leader in it? Probably not. And how can anyone that's taken you seriously in the past go back and listen to your sermons or go back and see what you've written and think, oh man, this guy knows what he's talking about? It completely invalidates what you've done. And it may not be fair, but that's the burden you carry. When you say, I hear from God and he leads me to help lead you, that's a bold ass claim.
I think everyone's trying to figure it out and no one knows anything.
I think,
like, when you look back, like, our parents didn't know anything. They were just figuring it out as they went along.
You gain bits and pieces as you go.
Right.
And that I think is true. I just think, again,
take the bits and pieces and try and make your own.
And be careful who you let lead you, because pastor or not, plenty of people that give you advice, and we say this all the time on our channel, whether it's relationship advice, whether it's from us or others, take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Don't assume anyone has the secret sauce, because if they had it, and you see they mess up, it's like, wait, I thought you had the secret sauce. You don't know what's going on. We joke and say, hey, our marriage is great. It could be awful when this camera cuts off. You wouldn't know.
It's not awful. Being honest.
We're honest about it where it's not awful. I think we're good. We joke that we don't have issues, but in the reality of it is, everyone's struggle is their own. And so for you guys out there that are couples that are, considering getting in a relationship with somebody else, go at your own pace and your own speed, because in reality, it's not a one size fits all situation. It's really specific to you. And, if you were somebody that's 19, 20, give yourself some time before you get married. Right?
Yeah, are you trying to say slow your royals? Because I think that's what we're saying.
No, I'm just saying don't push to get married at 19. That's all I'm saying. That's not about, you could be with somebody the whole time and just say, let's figure each other out more before we do it. That's all. I'm not saying that. Men are not just sowing royal oats everywhere. I'm not hearing that. I think women need to sow their royal oats too. So, there's that.
Well, that's all we had today. So please like, comment, and subscribe. We are on Instagram at Lub Dub Podcast, and we are also on Twitter, Lub Dub Podcast.
Yes, and make sure you hit the notification bell, guys, so you are the first to know when we drop new content. And with that, we'll see you next time. Later.
See you next week.